Before we get started, thank you for sharing all of your school names, making connections in the chat. I'm really excited about that. Thank you to our co-hosts. Thank you for our pitchers and panelists. So before we get to our six incredible ideas tonight, I want to make sure I'm introducing our panelists and telling you why we asked each of our panelists. At School Board School, we believe that you can't just know what you want to advocate, you need to know who to advocate to. So, if we're talking about a policy change within a school district, that goes to our school board. And that's why we invited the chair of the Cincinnati Public School Policy Committee, Ben Lindy. Ben, thank you so much for being here tonight with us. And then the folks who implement that policy, that's our fabulous administrators. And so that is why Superintendent of Cincinnati Public Schools, Shauna Murphy, is with us tonight. Thank you so much for being here with us. Now, I think the folks on this call know so much of what happens within the schools. It is decided above our schools. It happens at the State House. And so that's why tonight we have Ohio State Representative Ashley Bryant Bailey representing the 26th House District here in Ohio. So, of course, our state legislators make those laws. They also approve the public school budget set by the state of Ohio. Now, one thing we noticed in our previous 4 years doing pitch night is that so many of our fabulous ideas, they needed one thing really crucial, and that's funding. And so that's why we have asked our friends at Interact for Health to join us on the panel. Now, of course, this night is not about a magic wand. We're not able to promise any funding tonight. However, we believe that the mindset of folks who make funding decisions will help all of our pitchers as they take their idea forward. So, welcome, Lisa Myers. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. All right. I am going to show you our order for this evening. Again, 6 amazing pitches for you. And here's how this is going to work. Each of these ideas will have 5 minutes to present, and then our panelists will have 3 to 5 minutes to give them feedback or ask questions. Then, once all 6 presentations are finished, our panelists will go into a breakout room and choose a winner. And you, the audience, will have an opportunity to choose a winner as well. And we will announce it here tonight before we leave in our time together. So please stick around to the end to make sure you vote and hear who our winners are. And final ask before we head into the first pitch. We believe at School Board School that all of us need to work together to create real change. And we know that all 6 pitches have amazing ideas, and these folks are really brave to put their idea out there and join us tonight. So please fill the chat with lots of love for each of these ideas. Use your reactions button on Zoom to give them a Zoom applause and congratulate them for doing a really great job tonight. All right, so with that, let's get rolling. First up is Devin, and Devin is going to be talking about her idea, Mastery from the Roots.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this opportunity. My name is Devin O'Toole, and I have taught for 7 years in both middle school and high school settings. And I'd like to tell you that when I met my students last year, 73% of them were testing in the lowest testing bracket labeled limited. And this is unfortunately common across Cincinnati schools and the state. The numbers reflect that this is a compounding issue. If you take a look at these models that I found on Ohio's report card site concerning Cincinnati Public, if we're looking at the bottom 2 levels of basic and limited, it nearly doubles between the time that the kids are tested in 3rd grade to 8th grade, showing that this is a compounding issue. And through conversations with my colleagues, I've come to understand this as twofold of literacy access and shame. I want to be really clear about something, though, that it is not about an inability to understand or think or learn. But when they know that they're going to get moved forward into that next grade regardless, that cycle continues and it affects every subject. As many educators know, that shame often shows up as defensiveness instead of curiosity. And our system is well-intentioned, but it's built on this year-to-year progression system. And we compound that issue because the state requires that we give them grade level content. And when they fail a class and aren't put into credit recovery until the next year, we are absolutely waterlogging these kids. That's where Mastery from the Roots comes in. It can prevent this from happening. By the time they get high school, it's across the board. What if we made one shift? That would be a policy change that then incites a practice change. Here is an example of our current grading system. It is, of course, aligned by standards, and we track it by the content. So what if instead of grading the assignment, what if we track the mastery of the standards themselves? So we begin at early literacy, and then we continue that support through middle and high school. As educators, we already differentiate instruction out the wazoo based on data, and we already align assignments to the standards. But when a student demonstrates mastery, they can actually progress into deeper content with that standard, or they can, if they're not mastering it, they can focus on a standard that they actually still need. It is translated then into the tried and true A through F system. In theory, organic failure will be far less common. For example, if a student has already mastered multiplication, they don't need more of it. Instead, they get pulled during a lesson to work on fractions, a skill that they actually struggle with. They don't need to make up that lesson that they've already mastered. They are instead supported and rewarded. Students can move in and out of groups fluidly based on these skills with real teachers guiding them and not self-paced programs like iReady or Morphology. This removes stigma and shame because everyone is receiving support just for different reasons. This supports children with learning disabilities and anxiety in immeasurable ways. Students with 504s, IEPs, gifted WEPs, or other intervention needs are easily accommodated with this system because it's not about adding something new. It's about realigning and reallocating what we already value and resources that we already have into a system where students move forward because they're actually ready, not just because more time has passed. So they will be moving into that next grade on time, but it'll be because it's actually much more earned. They'll have a much deeper understanding. So no new programs, no new funding is actually even needed. We use classroom teachers, reading specialists, intervention specialists to work together inside the bell schedule we already have. And importantly, this is already supported in Ohio through the credit flexibility law. Students can earn credit based on demonstrated mastery, not seat time. And we're seeing success with similarly structured approaches in Wyoming and Pickering District, how they implement the science of reading. There are many long-term effects of this as well. Fewer kids are going to need credit recovery classes, fewer RIMs, and graduation rates are going to go up because the kids actually are motivated to come to school, which will in turn fix the attendance issue. And right now, many of the kids don't even look beyond high school. Unfortunately, I see this with some of my students, that they don't see how the critical thinking skills that we teach them at this level and that growth mindset affects their whole life. I know that my kids are capable, and if we build them from these roots, then I know that they can really represent Cincinnati and influence Cincinnati in the best way. I know that the best way to support my kids is to ask for your consideration to make a clear commitment that mastery matters and Cincinnati Public can build it from its roots. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. You're so smart.
Thank you.
I am wondering if you are aware of other school districts who have accepted this approach.
The practice, yes, I have seen success in Pickering District and in, what was the other one? Wyoming District are doing the small group intervention from what I researched, but I have not seen a district, at least in Ohio, successfully implement the standards-based strategy mastery system, which is why I would really like the opportunity to pilot it in Cincinnati and be that driving force that kicks it off. I know that I know I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I know that this has been an idea circulating in education before. And when I have tried it on a small scale in my own classroom, my students went from 73% to 45% of students testing in the lowest bracket within a year and a half. And I have every faith in the world that this can work.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Lisa. I'll go after you.
Devin, if you said it, I missed it. What age grade would this be? Would you recommend this be implemented?
I would recommend it across the board, K through 12. I think it'd be easiest to start in elementary. That way the system is known to the kids, and that desensitizing them, I guess, to that small grouping and telling them, hey, you're going to be in the group for a while of your lowest skill. I think if you just threw in juniors and seniors into that strategy, they might be hesitant to be open to it at first. That being said, I've already tried it with my freshmen and sophomores a couple times, and it's worked perfectly fine. But I think that having that support follow them through their K through 12 journey would give us the best results. And obviously that would take time to see that overturn. But I think that's where it would be best served for now.
That's great. And I'll be real quick. I think there's a question for the superintendent. I was just thinking about CPS. Like, could we do if we wanted to do this, could we do it within Focus or like the current data system, or would it mean buying some kind of new student information system?
That's a great question. We're still working with designers for Focus, so this would be a fantastic time to ask them. We have had standards-based mastery in CPS in the past. You may recall that. I think I recall parents and their feedback around it. I think some people have been used to getting like an A, a B, or whatnot, and this would mean, are you mastering a specific standard? And the feedback around that. So definitely, remember, Lindy, things that we can discuss. Again, we're currently in the system where we're building what we need that to look like. So I think there's a possibility.
Thank you all so much, Devin. It takes so much
Thank you, Devin.
to go first. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Well, good evening. My name is Chris Mattress, and I am excited to be with you all tonight. I wanted to start out with a quick story. While teaching in grades 3, 4, and 6 in Southeast DC, I had students that may have been A and B students in previous school years. When I looked deeper, I could see they weren't fully meeting grade level expectations. So I would sit down with parents and walk them through what I was seeing. And almost every time they were surprised, because to them, good grades meant they could allow more time on Roblox or Fortnite because A's and B's are good. But no one had clearly explained what their child's performance actually meant. And once they understood, everything changed. That experience is what inspired Academic Insights Hub. Now, when we zoom out beyond just one classroom, nationally, only about 1/3 of students are reading at a proficient level, and students not reading on grade level by 3rd grade are less likely to graduate on time. And not to mention the school to prison pipeline. Here locally, Cincinnati Public Schools continue to focus on improving early literacy through numerous initiatives. One of my favorites, CPS is doing, including state test scores on report cards, giving the parents the whole picture. That's a big step towards transparency. And honestly, if this was around 2004, I'd have gotten in less trouble with my mom because I had some rough grades due to behavior, but I had high test scores. But access to data is not the same as understanding. Right now, families are receiving more information, but not always the understanding or direction needed to take action. That's exactly the gap Academic Insights Hub is designed to solve. At its core, it's about two things: creating clarity and closing the parent engagement gap, and turning that clarity into targeted action for families. So what does that actually look like in practice? We create structured, welcoming, and engaging spaces for parents to clearly understand where their child stands academically, understand what that actually means, and know exactly how to support their child at home. One of the biggest challenges we're solving for is clarity. Families are receiving a wide range of academic information, test scores, report cards, benchmarks, standards, but much of it isn't presented in a way that's easy to understand or guidance to act on. So that challenge isn't a lack of data, it's making that data clear, simple, and actionable for families. And as we think about how we deliver the correct messaging, specialists will use a standardized approach to these academic conversations as best practice, so that every parent receives clear, aligned, and actionable guidance. And this is why expertise really matters, right? Not every teacher is prepared to go into deep academic breakdowns, data analysis, or parent coaching, but they're still phenomenal teachers. Sometimes a different level of expertise is needed. So this model ensures families receive that level of clarity while allowing teachers to stay focused on building strong classrooms, strong relationships, and strong student outcomes. To put it in another way, Think about any organization or company. When there's complex or high impact information to be shared or presented, it's typically handled by a manager or specialist, not pushed to someone on the front lines. Education should be no different. Academic Insights Hub would require these sessions to be led by school or district level specialists, with teachers participating as an option and not an added expectation. Families deserve the same level of clarity and guidance. Now, when we think about building the foundation for success, third grade is a critical milestone in a student's academic journey. But the opportunity doesn't start at third grade. It's in preparing families before they get there. So by the time students reach third grade, parents already know how to interpret performance and support their child in high need areas. And when we look at impact, we focus on 3 key areas: parent clarity that drives action, school parent engagement metrics, and student progress. For parents move from parents to partner. They understand what their child needs and how to help. For students receive earlier support, added intentional academic support at home, and stronger academic outcomes. And for the schools and the district, this creates stronger relationships and trust with families and communities, because when communication is clear and consistent, schools and families operate as true partners. At the end of the day, it's about packaging how we communicate what already exists in a way families can actually use and not just hang on refrigerators anymore. And I'll close with this. Academic Insights Hub is about clarity, because clarity creates confidence, confidence creates action, and when schools and families take action together, outcomes change for students, for schools, and for communities. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Christopher. I was also reading the chat as you were going, and I think what I'm seeing consistently is folks really appreciate the clarity and how digestible this presentation is. And I think you mentioned that in some of your messaging, where this isn't necessarily a new concept, but it is repackaging it in a way that makes it very clear for parents to understand their role, their kids' role, and CPS. So I do really appreciate that framing. I had 2 minor questions. One, I didn't know, is there a particular grade this starts in? I know you were emphasizing making sure this is ahead of third grade, but was there a particular level that we want a program like this to begin?
Yeah, so I'm thinking first grade, right? At the latest. Some buildings are pre-K as well. So I think as the child or the student is in that building of that elementary school that has that third grade track, I think it's important to start as early as possible.
Okay. And if I may, just a quick follow-up. So how would you differentiate this, right? If I'm a parent, well, I am a mom, but if I'm a parent and I go, well, what's the difference between a parent-teacher conference than the Insights Hub? Which I think we know the answer, but how would you kind of respond to that? Because this is like, okay, where you're adding something else, versus then I just come in for my parent-teacher conference. So what's that differentiator?
Thank you. Yeah. So as a teacher, I never like getting, only 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes with a parent at parent-teacher conferences. The schedule can get shifted around. Schedules can get changed late, things like that. So I think that only relying on one setting to kind of communicate or articulate that progress, I think is limiting our parents or even our impact, right? So if we provide let's call it a auxiliary space, right, for parents to be able to receive this information and be able to be coached on how to take action on this information, I think we provide a more welcoming and engaging environment for our parents and families.
Excellent. Thank you.
I, Mr. Matthews, would just like to share with you, I appreciate this presentation for many different reasons, but my bells went off because you have taken a policy that was just agreed upon this school year, and you provide an actionable next step for how we can really implement and implement well. So yes, The reading levels, math levels are going on report cards starting this quarter for fourth quarter. But then what's the next step? What's the conversation like? So I appreciate that framework.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jaleesa Brown. I'm the founder of Virtue Visionary, where we focus on youth governance and systems design. I'd like to start by looking at how our values show up in practice. As a young person navigating both the education system and foster care, I experienced what it felt like to have decisions made about me, but rarely with me. They could be personal decisions, from what clothes I would wear to how I was supported, all the way down to which seat I was allowed to sit in a classroom. An important goal for schools is to prepare students for leadership, civic engagement, and decision making. But students are often excluded from the very decisions that shape their daily lives. Not because they lack the insight, but because we haven't designed systems that actually include them yet. Cincinnati Public School has a clear and powerful vision, a system where students is valued, supported, and empowered, and families and communities are full partners in decision making. But right now, there is a gap between that vision and how decision making is structured. Students are often invited to share their perspectives through surveys, councils, and listening sessions, yet they're rarely embedded in spaces where decisions are actually made. So while students are present, they are not positioned with defined roles, authority, or accountability in governance. And this creates a disconnect. We're preparing students for leadership, civic engagement, and decision-making, and yet not modeling what shared decision-making actually looks like within the system itself. This is not a failure of intention. It's a gap in the structure. We've seen efforts towards this before, students showing interest, even shaping ideas. But without clear structure, those efforts don't always sustain or translate into decision-making. And when structure doesn't exist, even the best intentions rely solely on individual efforts alone and not the system itself. Students do not lack insight, awareness, or interest in shaping their schools. What's missing is a structure that allows their perspectives to be integrated into decision-making in a way that's meaningful and consistent. The opportunity is not to create another space for student voice, but to redesign how students participate in governance. This proposal is to embed a structured youth governance model within existing systems to support current CPS policy. This includes defined student roles in decision-making spaces, clear areas of influence and co-creation, training for students and adults, representation across lived experience, and accountability for outcomes. This is not about shifting all authority overnight. It's about building structured pathways for students to participate in governance with clarity, training, and accountability, just like any other board member. This doesn't require starting from scratch. There's existing models and approaches that can support the district in building this in a way that's practical, sustainable, and aligned with their goals. And if we embed students into governance in a structured way, the impact is both immediate and long-term. In the short term, we see more responsive decisions. We see policies that reflect the lived realities of students, particularly in areas like discipline, mental health, and school climate. Students are more engaged because they're not just being heard. They can see their input influencing outcomes, and that shifts trust. At a system level, we move from consultation to collaboration. Decision-making becomes more informed, more inclusive, and more aligned with the district's own vision, where students are not only supported, but empowered. It reduces blind spots, strengthens implementation, and builds shared accountability. In long term, this is about what we're modeling for young people. If schools are meant to prepare students for leadership and civic life, then students should experience what it means to participate in real decision-making while they're here. We move from teaching leadership to practicing leadership. Because when students experience shared governance, they don't just learn how systems work, but they learn how to shape the very systems that are shaping them. Thank you.
I'm happy to start. I think, Jay, I really like your presentation, and I like the idea of student voice a lot. Superintendent, I know you have a group of students you speak to already a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lundy. So we do have a superintendent student leadership cabinet. We do have student voice through our peer leadership collaboratives in college and career and philanthropy, in wellness, and Speak Up, Speak Out. I will tell you, and even Mr. Lindy, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but current President Craig had mentioned to me possibly starting for next school year a student cabinet for the board. And so this is a framework that might work for something like that if there's interest.
Absolutely. Sounds amazing.
So my board has certainly made sure that we utilize students and have student voice in just about everything we do. And so I appreciate all the work that you put into this, Jay.
Thank you.
Jay, given all the examples that we just heard, what do you have any ideas for other ways we could integrate student voice? Like system? Yeah.
So the biggest thing is integrating student voice in a structured and consistent way. So once the feedback is gathered and received, it's often not operationalized or turned into decision-making spaces. And we can see that every day as we look around schools and we're actually speaking to students, and the importance of ensuring that those students who are representing, you want a I'm sorry, losing my words. You want lived experience. So we need diverse lived experience across. So if only your top academic students are sharing their insights, well, you're not really getting the full experience, right? If you are only talking to students who have great loving families, we're not really talking to our foster youth or kids experiencing homelessness. We're still missing out on a lot of youth that are part of it. So there's a lot of moving pieces to ensuring that it's not only, we're not just gathering the feedback, but we're actually operationalizing it and including and reflecting a full lived experience within decision-making spaces.
Yeah, I wonder if what you're saying too is part of like a feedback loop that once a decision is made,
Yes.
putting that in a system.
Yes. And it's not just so the goal of this is actually to embed them before decisions are made. So they're actually in the conversations, helping sharing their influences or experiences and giving their feedback. So your policies are more informed from the beginning instead of drafting it all up and then sharing with them and then getting their feedback. They're actually there from the beginning. That's what this framework represents.
At the beginning of the school year, the first and second grade classes of our school decided to pilot an EdTech app called iReady. After a few weeks of spending 20 minutes a day on this app, my second grade son came home saying he was bored. The app was giving him work far below his ability. It turned out iReady had placed him at a first grade reading level, but based on his map testing results, my son's skills are beyond his grade level, not below. I began to ask questions. Are gamified apps really helping our students? Or are they making empty promises to teachers and districts who desire real outcomes? Are we handing too much control to computers when it comes to our children's education? My name's Hannah Walbrink, and I'm joined by my friends Catherine Fruget and Maggie Kingsley. We're the parents of a total of 11 children, and all of our school-aged kids are students in the Ohio Public Schools, both Montessori and traditional models. We're here today to present our concerns with the growing use of educational technology in schools, specifically with one-to-one devices. It's our belief that Ohio Public Schools can retain more families and improve student outcomes by reevaluating current technology practices and carefully considering new tech before welcoming it into the classroom. Since the 1800s, children have been outperforming their parents on every cognitive measure until Gen Z. Independent research points to a correlation between school-issued devices and a decline in academic outcomes. Since 2012, the U.S. has shown a 7-point drop in reading and a 14-point drop in math. What else happened in 2012? Schools nationally started implementing school-issued one-to-one devices. Today, some schools in our nation report that middle and high schoolers spend more than 3 hours of a school day on devices. That's half of the working school day. Since these devices are often preloaded with gamified apps, as well as internet access, students are constantly getting distracted. Some studies show that for every hour of educational time on a computer, 38 minutes are spent off task. We're handing children entertainment devices and asking them to stay focused. That's a task difficult for adults.
Spinning off Hannah's point, do you know how hard it was for me as a 33-year-old woman to write this presentation on my computer without getting distracted? And my brain is fully developed. We are proposing an implementation of Every School's EdTech Triangle. The organization Every School is a nonprofit that through extensive research has produced a rubric for schools to determine what technology should be used in education. The rubric asks if the technology in question is transformative, supportive, restrictive, or disruptive, with the goal that all technology used lands in the top of the triangle. Transformative technology produces a unique outcome or develops a high-level skill, such as typing, coding, or graphic design. Supportive technology supports learning in helpful ways. This could include audiobooks, podcasts, or supplementary videos. Restrictive technology limits learning outcomes. This includes points-based learning games and screen-based tech whose learning outcomes are easily replicated with traditional methods. Today, through Norwood City School District's Final Forms website, there are 167 district-approved apps. Many of these apps would fall under the restrictive category. Disruptive technology disrupts learning and/or breeds habitual use. This includes using screen time for behavior management or needless screen-based homework assignments. Administrators, teachers, and parents alike all want excellent education for our students, and carefully evaluating each piece of technology before adopting it into the classroom will improve outcomes for students and school districts. This is a nonpartisan issue we can all rally behind. States on different ends of the political spectrum, like Vermont, Utah, and Tennessee, are already working on legislation around these very issues. Ohio can be a leader in our country by creating optimal environments for students and teachers. Let me paint a picture for you. A school day starts around 8:30. Students begin class with instruction from their highly qualified teacher. They practice writing with paper and pencils. Math problems are solved on personal dry erase boards instead of Chromebooks. During free time, the students enjoy playing outdoors. Once or twice a week, they walk to a computer lab where they receive age-appropriate instruction on typing and coding from a specialized teacher. At the end of the day, the kids go home without devices and enjoy a full childhood, playing games with their neighbors and siblings, riding bikes, reading books for fun. This is not a radical dream. This is an average day for schools like McPherson Middle School in Kansas, where administration has halted the overuse of technology in defense of deep learning. And this can be a reality for Ohio kids too.
You know, I can remember 2020, COVID-19, and our mad dash to get devices in every kid's hand and figuring out who should have an iPad, who should, and it was a task. It was quite a task, and figuring out how to do instruction in a hybrid manner. I will never forget that. Then here now in 2026, you know, I get emails from parents all the time asking about, well, Ms. Murphy, what about the screen time? There's just too much, you know, so this is very interesting. Our board also last year really ahead of the game for many Ohio districts approved our artificial intelligence policy, and we have teams of teachers and administrators working on what that looks like, sounds like, feels like in our classrooms. And so this is a very timely presentation, very interesting presentation. I can tell you that even when I present and talk with adults, everybody starts the meeting off with their laptops open. It's so interesting. So thank you for your time and your ideas around this piece.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could jump in quickly, echoing some of the same sentiments, is couldn't be more relevant. I'm actually on the Tech and Innovation Committee at the Ohio House, and there are many pieces of legislation where we're talking every day about the impacts of AI. And so I'm excited to learn and think more about this particular rubric. And so I just wanted to share a note of thanks. I also was a coder in high school, and so I attribute that a lot into my learning and curriculum. And so I was really happy to see you all considering that as a part of the transformative piece of the rubric. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have time, Andrea, for one more?
Yeah, please go for it.
Well, I was just going to ask the group, like, what about just getting rid of all of them?
Sounds
That would be
great.
great.
That's great.
Yeah.
That was my only question. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've learned.
We're here
You know,
for it.
in doing research, we've learned that it is the one-on-one device that's where the numbers start to go down, right? That's where they're getting access to the internet at really early ages. Like that's where a lot of the issues begin. And we know there's challenge with that. Like it's made textbooks cheaper. And so there may need to be some kind of funding around that, but we would definitely love to see, at least in the lower levels and across the board, one-on-one devices removed from
Yeah.
the classroom.
And just to be clear, in case that this is watched or recorded somewhere else, I have been a supporter of iReady for a bunch of reasons in our district. I stand by all of that. I think it's a very helpful assessment tool. I do wonder though about how much time from an instructional perspective kids are spending on devices. And
Yes.
Superintendent, I think there are also good reasons for why we might want to maintain some of that. But just as a parent, I think shrinking the instructional use of screens is at least
Yes.
compelling.
Yes, like in our rubric, the way that they would use it the way we did when we were kids, right? There would be a computer lab where they're learning a skill versus learning reading, writing, arithmetic. Like, so our kids are learning that better from their teacher than with the device. So it's different what they're getting on a computer than what we received.
Yeah. I think just one more comment on that point. An analogy that I feel like is helpful is if we decide that every high school should teach a driver's ed course, we wouldn't then decide that every classroom should be taught in a car. And the same goes for computers. We want these kids to be competitive when they go out into the real world, but we don't want all of their instruction to take place on a screen.
And
Thank
we
you all.
support, typing classes and coding and things like that. So we want to be clear that we know technology can be amazing, and we don't want our kids to not have those skills, just in a more secure environment.
My name is Karen Henry, and I want to say that this impetus for this project, Guidance Coach, was based on 21 years ago. My daughter was told by her counselor that it was probably not in her best interest to apply to one of the top 10 schools in the country. Listening to the counselor, she decided that she would not apply. What was missing was the inability to understand my daughter's potential and her ability to do well, even though quantitatively she did not look good on paper. It would have been great to have someone who knew how well she could do based on her potential. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we had something in place for those who saw students not just as numbers, or quantitative scores, GPAs, class ranks, but saw them for their potential, to help them, walk alongside of them, to build confidence. Let me say that we understand that the role of guidance counselor today in our environmental system, they're dealing with a large number of student loads. Their workload is tremendous. They have to meet academic, social, emotional needs. There's a lot of stress and burnout. They're doing the best they can, but wouldn't it be great to have additional support for the counselors. Just to give you some idea of what we're looking at, according to the American Counselor Association, the average should be 250, but we're looking at right now a national average of 408 to one counselor in the nation. And in an urban setting, that number even increases to 480. When we're talking about elementary school students, that number goes even higher. We're looking at 480 to maybe 560, depending on if there is a counselor in the school system. There is a challenge. Of course, we're all aware of this. The issue is not commitment, it is capacity. For 1 out of 5 students are experiencing some type of mental health crisis. 20 to 30% of those are able to receive the attention that they need, but there's 70% who are deemed okay. They're okay. They're surviving, but not thriving. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had someone who could assist them with confidence building, direction, and give the other 70% support? The role of the guidance counselor. Their job is not coach. Their job is not to replace the guidance counselor. That can't be done. They're doing a fabulous job within their means, but their job is to work alongside of them, to help them do self-discovery, to find out who they are, to strengthen their goal setting abilities and accountabilities and their active student involvement. And moreover, it will advance holistic growth by building critical life skills and leadership skills for those students who don't believe that they are leaders. The coaches will work alongside of the counselors. The counselors will continue to do the work they currently do. The academic, social, and emotional needs will still be met for every student. But both roles, even though they are valuable, will have distinctively different approaches to how they approach the student in their support. Okay, where are these wonderful coaches coming from? We're looking at the possibility of retired teachers, retired counselors, interns. We can partner with universities and colleges. I believe right now there's 250 students right now who are in a educational counseling program waiting to graduate. I was startled by that number. Psychology majors, mental health therapists, practicum. There's great opportunities for us to have faith-based organizations. There's a myriad of opportunities for these particular coaches. What are the skills that they will need? Active listening, asking open-ended questions, positive reinforcement, motivational interviewing, goal setting skills, feedback, and reflection. The impact. 55% of the students right now who receive some type of mentoring, 55% enroll in college, go on to enroll in college. 20% of schools see a increase in attendance and also confidence building. 30% will be improved based on confidence building. So 3 to 2 more times more likely to attend college, 2 times more likely to enroll in bachelor's degree program, improve their GPAs, attendance and retention, stay focused in school, and feel confident about their future. Thank you.
I can kick us off. Well, first, thank you, Karen. Certainly worth the wait. So I appreciate all the work here. One question that I do have, and the stats are disheartening, to be honest, but I think the impact is exciting to see where we have an opportunity. You had this scale of potential coaches and mentors. Are there other programs in other school districts that you would liken this to, where there are other folks that are coming in and providing that additional support that might be similar, where you're seeing some good impact already?
There are other programs, but my reasoning to bring this up again was based on my own personal experience as a mother. But this has also been tried in churches and worked very well, where lay counselors have come in to replace pastors, have been trained to be able to address certain issues so that the pastor is not always in a position to have to put out fires. So yes, it's been, but there are other programs. I'm sure Shauna can speak to some of the programs that are in place. What I like about this, though, is that it can be based on consistency. Again, we said that it is not commitment. We have wonderful counselors, wonderful. They're doing their job. They have to look at the quantitative score. It is based on capacity. We don't have a lot of people who can say, hey, you can do it. You got the potential. Believe in yourself. So this is just having that person who will extend the reach of the counselor to go alongside and be there available to talk, to provide resources, support, whatever other things are needed outside of the scope of the counselor.
I really like this. I really like this because of two reasons. I would sum this up. One, our school board has definitely set the direction and the tone for what they would like to see in our schoolhouses, including counselors for all of our 7th through 12th grade students, including mental health therapists in all of our buildings, pre-K to 12. And it really aligns with my work because I like to say we are here for kids in Cincinnati Public Schools, and this means addressing social emotional needs so that they can be prepared for the classroom and for teaching and for learning so that we can improve educational outcomes for our young people. I will also tell the group I am super proud to be able to say I think CPS is hitting that 250 to 1 mark, which is a Herculean task. I don't know how long we'll be able to keep that up, simply because of finances, not necessarily because of need or the desire or the value.
Yes. CPS is doing it extraordinarily well. This would really help at the elementary and the middle school level where you don't have as many touch points for the students, and in terms of building that pipeline for counselors to come aboard and share confidence building.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brandon Parker, and I'm a digital product designer. I work at the intersection of the classroom and the boardroom. By day, I design digital product solutions for companies like Procter & Gamble, Kroger, and Fifth Third. But I've also taught in spaces like the Kennedy Heights Arts Center, Cincinnati Arts and Technology Center, and within the Cincinnati Public School classrooms as a substitute teacher. And what I've seen is this: our students aren't the problem, the system is. The problem is a growing disconnect that our students are having in the classroom. We have a format problem, not a student problem. Our students are being pushed into worksheets and rigid construction cycles, standardized testing that are designed to manage the classroom and test proficiency and not spark curiosity. Meanwhile, outside of the school, these same students are building worlds and games, editing videos, creating brands, and teaching themselves complex digital skills. So the question becomes, why aren't they engaged? Why are they engaged everywhere except where the learning is supposed to happen? The opportunity is learning as team support. We, in my professional world, we solve problems not by memorizing answers, but we're taught to ask better questions. We research, we test, we iterate, and we constantly ask why. That process and way of thinking is a methodology that we call human-centered or design thinking, and it what drives innovation across every industry that you can think of. When new graduates come into our organization, we quickly get them onboarded to this methodology. So I asked myself, what if we gave the students that same framework earlier in their education? The solution that I propose is the Human-Centered Design Studio. Human-centered learning pilot that turns the classroom into a design studio. Students don't just complete assignments, they solve real problems. They work in small teams, move through a structural process, observe real-world challenges, research and validate information, build and test ideas, and present solutions. This can be designed as an ancillary program, as an after-school enrichment program, summer learning cohort, or optional school elective. The students will see value in the program because upon completion, they'll have portfolio-ready projects, presentation experience, and pathway to certification programs. This isn't just replacing the system, it's plugging into it and making it more relevant. How does the pilot operate? To ensure that the group work isn't just group work as usual, we structured the pilot to mirror the high-functioning teams that we lead in the private sector. We replace vague assignments with defined ownership. We operate in one-week cycles. This time frame moves beyond the one-off project, giving students the runway they need to develop into research, hit roadblocks, and then pivot, just like they would in the real world. The program doesn't just prepare students for college, it prepares them for life. We're developing students who are critical thinkers, problem solvers, confident communicators, and collaborative leaders. Students who don't just wait for the instructions, they create the way forward. And in a world that's changing every day, this is no longer optional. Some of the career possibilities that are possible through the pilot program: product strategists, product managers, project managers, product designers, product engineers, product content creators, and more. So in closing, we are shaping the future, not just reacting to it. The future is already here, and it's moving faster than our systems can keep up with. Incremental change isn't enough anymore. We want students to do more than just survive. We have to give them the tools to question the world around them, navigate complexity, and lead within it. I've seen what happens when the switch flips, when students stop being learners of a subject and start becoming owners of the solution. There's a spark there, and once it's lit, it doesn't go out. Let's give them the runway so that they just don't watch the future happen, they reshape it. My name is Brandon Parker. I'm a product designer, educational consultant, and CPS instructor. I'm not just here to present an idea, I'm here to build something. With the right partners, the right educators, and right support, we can launch this pilot and start developing the next generation of thinkers right here in Cincinnati. We have developed a curriculum for this pilot program, and we are looking for funding, partnerships, resources, and students grades 7 to 8 and a school to pilot the program. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Parker, thank you for this. Not only thank you for the presentation, but also thank you for being a substitute teacher in Cincinnati Public Schools. That means the world to me. I started my career as a sub, and so thank you so much for your support. I am really wondering how much would a program like this run?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are still putting together like financial reports on that information, right? But we've seen these kind of programs played out with university partnerships with corporations and organizations. They're not always forthcoming about sharing some of that information, but I do have networks and contacts who are able to provide me some insight to that. So if you would like to have some of that information, I welcome the opportunity to provide that to you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So this summer we're not doing any structured enrichment, but we do have some partners who will be in some of our schoolhouses. And so they may be looking for others to partner with, but I would have to know how much we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon, is your idea that this would be in addition to current offerings the students are taking instead of current offerings that kids are taking?
I see this as an opportunity, Mr. Lundy, that students can take, similar to how some students have the opportunity to take like coding classes, some of the STEM classes that have recently become more prioritized because of the interest in some of the technology based. We see this as an opportunity and pathway into STEM possible electives as well.
So more of an elective and less of, I'm just trying to figure out, is this what they do instead of their current science class?
I wouldn't
Or
say
is this
instead.
like-
No, I won't see this as a replacement. This is a methodology principle that is used in corporate environments. So it's more of a training and preparation program. So it doesn't replace an elective, but it's more of an additive.
Thank you. I love design thinking, by the way. I think it's a cool idea. I should have led with that. I think it's really interesting.
Thank you.
I would just and thank you for the presentation. And I've worked in this thinking, and it kind of reminds me of not just iterative, but almost sprint phases of getting the work done. Many moons ago, I was in the private sector. But without it, one of the things that I'm thinking about is what are the opportunities to bring this theory of change into a current curriculum setting, right? And so instead of it being a separate elective, have you thought at all about maybe working with a specific class that already exists and bringing in some of this sprint or iterative thinking in a current setting?
It's interesting that you said that, Ashley. I've been working with a partner to try to identify like a test class that we will be teaching this June. So I'm looking to learn a lot of insights in that test class. This is not through the Cincinnati Public Schools, but we did identify a group that did want to learn some of this design thinking curriculum. And so we will be doing that teaching in June. So we will have some readouts from that session where we'll be able to have some insights that we can share.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing how that turns out.
Thank you again so much. Okay, so go
I will
ahead.
take it away.
Yes.
Well, first, of course, we want to thank and acknowledge every single one of you, the thought, the intention, the work that you have put into every one of these presentations. This is my first time participating. I am so grateful to be in a conversation at this level. You all are truly everyday experts, and it really shined through in every single word and slide. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We talked through from clarity of the problem, significance, efficacy of your proposed solution, potential for impact. Is there something like that happening? Costs, funding, all of the above. And so the project that we have chosen would be our Insights Hub, Christopher Mattress. So I want to congratulate you for the work that you have put in. And I know that this group is going to ensure that we are put in contact with all of the pitchers and presenters. We still have questions. We had a lot of discussion around each one of the proposed ideas. And so, I certainly want to hear more about every single project and see what are some things that we can be thinking about at the State House. But all of the panelists were super, super impressed and want to make sure that we stay in conversation with all of you as you continue to see these ideas through.
Congratulations again, Chris. And thank you again to all of our panelists. Really appreciate the time and attention you took into making that decision. And now it is my wonderful honor to announce our audience vote winner. And that is our technology policy team. Catherine, Hannah, and Maggie give you all the congrats. Congrats. Great job. Really appreciate all of the research that you did. Well, I appreciate everyone's research, but great job. I look forward to being in touch with all of our pitchers, connecting you with the panelists of judges. Please stay connected to School Board School. And thank you all for being here tonight, our audience, for listening to all of these wonderful ideas, all of our pitchers, everyone who commented in the chat, all of it that makes the night so special. Thank you, everyone. Very, very grateful.